Hi there, and welcome back to Ramble On, Counseling Reflections on Life and Love. So today would be a day that I'm doing a Q&A or a conversation with a guest, and today it's a question. I had a parent reach out to me asking me about how they can support their teenager here in Newfoundland. For a lot of schools, it's exam time. And of course, not only is it exam time, there's tests going on all the time. We live in an academic system that, assessments have to happen. And testing anxiety for teenagers is a huge topic. It comes up in my office when I'm working in schools quite often. And I had a parent ask me, how do I support my child when I can see that they're capable to do the material, they're studying, they're working hard. When they do assignments, when they do projects, they're getting A+ marks, high 90s. And then when the test comes or the exam comes, it's, barely passing, 60s, 70%. And this is quite a common thing for young people, adults as well, to sort of shut down under pressure. And quite often it's challenging for parents and teachers to see a child's academic ability when anxiety and that pressure in a test takes over. So what actually happens, and how can we help teens as parents or as teachers? And I do encourage you as well, if this is something that's an ongoing struggle for your child, certainly reach out to me. I love talking to teenagers about this. It's one of my areas that I love working with them on these things. So what happens is we study, we prepare, we know all the material, and then we get in that room and we're supposed to perform and get that information out, and we freeze. We shut down. Anxiety takes over, and we just cannot perform to the best of our ability. And it's sort of like a deer in headlights situation. And a lot of that comes from lack of confidence, being scared to fail at something, not being comfortable taking risks, which obviously is a bigger discussion with that unique individual and why they feel that way. But we like to start with talking about things like growth mindset, which is the idea that we are comfortable failing. We're comfortable knowing that I am learning. I'm doing the best I can with the knowledge that I have. I'm going to do the best that I can, and I'll be okay with the outcome either way. And in the areas that I will not do well in, I will look at that as data, information, areas that I need to work on in the future. So not everybody has that growth mindset. A lot of us have the idea that if we fail or make a mistake, it's like the end of the world. And that's quite common these days when we have that perfectionist idea. And I will say also, obviously, that being well prepared for a test, having studied, knowing the material, being prepared adds to that confidence. Obviously, walking into a test or an exam, having not studied and not being prepared for the material is going to challenge that child and make them feel like they're unable to perform and do the work. So there are different issues. If your child requires support through tutoring to get that confidence, that's sort of a different thing. But when we're talking about that child that has studied, is competent, and we see it in assignments and projects, they know the material, and then, they're bottoming out in the tests and the exams. That's more of a freeze response. So when we get into it, to best support your child, it's about encouraging them that it's okay to get a lower mark. It's okay to fail. It's okay, not fail, but make mistakes in some areas. It's okay. And they're doing the best they can. And to have some open conversations around that in saying, the material, be confident with yourself. You've got this. It's going to be okay. And if you make a mistake, it's going to be okay. Another strategy as well is allowing them some tools, giving them some tools, and asking them what might work for them. It's not going to work for everyone. Simple things like when you get into the exam room or the testing room, when you're there, just to pause and be aware of what the thoughts are in your mind. And these are the things that I talk about in a counseling session is what are the things that you're saying to yourself? What is that voice in your head? What is it saying to you when you're sitting in that test? Is it saying to you that you're not going to do well? Oh my gosh, you're going to fail. I don't know the material. Instead, by reframing those thoughts to say things that have some self-compassion behind them, like, I've studied, I got this, I'm ready for this, I'm going to do the best that I can. Taking deep breaths, sitting there, being present, sometimes using tools like being aware of your 5 senses. That's a strategy where you think about what can I see, what can I hear, what can I smell, what can I touch in this room, and just sort of pausing for a minute at the beginning of the test to say, this is where I am. It's calming the nervous system. I'm going to be okay. Things are going to be all right. And then we go ahead and write the test. Another strategy is at the end of the test or the exam is to pause and say, okay, I did the best I can. Now I'm going to take a few minutes to start from the beginning of the exam or the test and look at each question that I did and ask myself, do I feel comfortable with this? Have I done the best I can? Awesome, I did. And it allows you to check for errors that you might have made when you were trying to get all that information out and rushing through the questions, which, we have a tendency to do when we've studied for 3 days and we want to get that information back out on the paper, especially in like really high content area courses, like say you're doing science, biology would be one that I would refer to, where there's a lot of material that needs to be memorized and content. And if you're doing things like physics or math, where there's a lot of computations, you definitely want to go through those things with a fine-tooth comb once you've finished the entire exam or test, whatever time you have left. And of course, there is often, in some cases, accommodations for students who are experiencing extreme anxiety in these settings, and they're able to do their test or exam in an alternate setting with a smaller group of people. So you might want to look into something like that for your teenager as well, if it applies. So I guess as a parent, to best support your child is to have that conversation. Like, how's it going? How do you feel when you go into a test or exam? Do you feel anxious? What's happening in your body when you get in there? And allow them to just reflect on how they're feeling and encouraging them to do better. As a counselor, it's something that we can dive into together. What I usually find is if this is a struggle in one area, it's generally a struggle in other areas as well. So it can be a bigger conversation. So thank you for listening. Just a little short one today. Thank you for that parent for stimulating this conversation and having that question for me. And I look forward to seeing you, and thanks for being here.